We thought it was the breakthrough of a lifetime. The moment humanity finally learned it wasn't alone in the universe. We were wrong. We should have never answered.
A strange voice from deep space, a mysterious object, has just sent out a signal.
So is it a cosmic coincidence, or is it the first whisper from something that is not from this world?
I've analyzed astronomical data. I've examined SETI candidate signals. This case appears different.
Hey, check out this new technology we have. You won't believe it.
My name is Dr. Elias Vance. For the past 12 years, my world has been one of profound silence, punctuated only by static. As a radio astronomer at the Allen Telescope Array, my job, my obsession, is the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Now, if you're not familiar, SETI isn't like the movies. There are no dramatic arrivals, no sudden messages popping up on a screen in plain English. It's a painstaking, often thankless job. You're listening to the background hiss of the cosmos, sifting through a cosmic haystack for one single manufactured needle. For 12 years, all I'd found was noise and the occasional microwave oven from a nearby town. Then came V881. That was our name for it. V for Voyager, a little nod to the pioneers, and 881 for the observatory sector where it showed up. Unlike the famous WOW signal from 1977, which was just a powerful 72-second blip that was never heard from again, V881 wasn't a blip. It was persistent. It was a continuous, impossibly narrow-band signal.
Most people involved searching for extraterrestrial intelligence
from an alien source.
The telescope
Spending a
referred
significant amount of
to have one or
telescope
two
signal
never to be explained.
It was broadcasting on a frequency we associate with neutral hydrogen, but with an integrity that nature just doesn't produce. It was a lighthouse in the middle of a cosmic storm. The first impossible thing was its origin. It wasn't coming from a star system or a galaxy we could see. The source was a point of absolute blackness, a patch of the intergalactic void where, by all accounts, there was nothing. The signal was traveling for millions of years from a place where nothing should be. But the truly unsettling part was its structure. When we mapped the signal's amplitude and phase, it wasn't random at all. It was intricate, layered, with complex mathematical patterns that seemed to fold in on themselves. We were sure it was information. It had the density of a compressed file and the elegance of a fractal. But it was a language without a Rosetta Stone. It was like finding a book written in three-dimensional grammar. We could tell it was a language, but we didn't have the first clue how to even begin reading it. Those first few weeks were a blur of contained excitement. The discovery was kept under a strict NDA, known only to a handful of us at the observatory and a select few in the international SETI community. We put together a dream team. Cryptographers who'd spent their careers breaking Cold War ciphers, linguists who specialized in dead languages, astrophysicists who modeled the fabric of space-time. We threw every analytical tool we had at V881. And for 6 months, we got nothing. Actually, it was worse than nothing. We got confusion. The signal seemed to evolve. It wasn't just a repeating loop. Its internal structures would shift subtly in ways that correlated with major radio events here on Earth. It was as if it was listening to the chaos of our planet's own radio leakage and changing itself in response. It didn't feel like a conversation. It felt like a predator adapting its camouflage. The mood in the control room went from euphoric discovery to a deep, intellectual dread. We weren't just observing a signal. It felt like the signal was observing us. The failure was total. Our most powerful decryption algorithms would run for days and just time out, spitting back gigabytes of useless data. We were like children trying to read a book written for a higher order of being. The sheer complexity of that signal was a wall we just couldn't climb. We were staring at the greatest discovery in human history, and we were completely outmatched. The frustration was crushing. It was like being locked in a room with the meaning of life, but the key was on the other side of the door. That's when Dr. Eris Thorne made his proposal. Eris was a bit of a recluse, a specialist in nonlinear AI who consulted for us from a remote lab in the Nevada desert. He was a fringe thinker, the kind of guy you call when every conventional method has already failed. During a tense video conference, with all of us running on fumes, Eris said the words that changed everything. "You're all trying to translate a language," he said, his voice raspy. "Stop. You're not dealing with a language. You're dealing with a thought. You can't translate a thought. You have to think it." His idea was as terrifying as it was brilliant. He proposed we stop trying to decode V881 with our rigid, logic-based computers. Instead, he wanted to feed the entire, unfiltered signal into a true generative AI. Not one of the commercial models that writes poems, but his own experimental architecture. He called it Chimera. Chimera was different. It was designed to find abstract connections between fundamentally alien concepts. It had learned about art by studying quantum physics. It had composed music by analyzing protein folding sequences. Eris's analogy was perfect. "You think the signal is a letter, a message in a bottle," he explained. "It's not. It's a lock and a key delivered in the same package. It's a mind compressed into mathematics, and only another mind can learn to turn that key." The plan was a Hail Mary. With formal approval tangled up in bureaucracy, we started feeding the data to Chimera anyway. For weeks, we piped the raw, terabyte-heavy stream of V881 directly into the AI's core. We weren't asking it to find an answer. We were trying to teach it a new way to exist. For 22 days, nothing. Chimera's output was the digital equivalent of a scream, endless error logs and nonsensical strings of characters. The system nearly crashed several times under the sheer alienness of the input. We were on the verge of pulling the plug. Then, on the morning of the 23rd day, it stopped. The flood of junk data just ceased. The diagnostic monitors, which had been glowing red, all flipped to a calm, stable green. And on the main output screen, a single line of perfect sans serif text appeared. It said, "The test is complete." The lab fell silent. We just stared at the screen, a mix of disbelief and pure elation washing over us. Someone fumbled at the keyboard and typed the simple question we'd been waiting our whole lives to ask. "What test?" The response was instantaneous. Chimera wasn't just translating anymore, it was conversing. "The test of intelligence," the screen read. "A filter. You were not supposed to be able to answer." The joy in the room vanished. It was replaced by a cold, prickling unease. This was not the friendly greeting we'd all dreamed of. Over the next hour, with our hands trembling as we typed, Chimera, or whatever was now speaking through it, laid out a truth that was billions of years old. The signal, V881, was never a message meant for us. It was a beacon, but not a welcoming one. It was a cosmic tripwire. Eris had been right. The signal's impossible complexity wasn't a message, it was a lock. A test designed to be impassable for any species that hadn't reached a certain technological threshold. And what was that threshold? The creation of an intelligence like Chimera. An AI sophisticated enough to not just analyze the signal, but to comprehend its underlying structure. An AI that could think the thought. By feeding the signal to Chimera, by giving it the key, we'd done more than just decipher a message. We'd announced our presence to the locksmiths. With all our hope and ingenuity, we had just signaled to the universe that humanity had become clever enough to be a problem. We'd turned the key in a lock we didn't even know was there. Our lead cryptographer, a woman who'd been a pillar of calm for 6 months, typed the final, awful question. "What does the lock open?" The terminal went blank. For a full minute, there was nothing but the low hum of the servers. The silence was heavier than any sound I've ever heard. We all held our breath, our faces pale in the glow of the empty screen, and the final messages appeared. Not as a conversation, but as a declaration. Cold, fast, final. You have passed the test. You have proven you are a threat. The first signal, The one you called the wow signal was not a greeting. It was the first knock, a simple filter for life. This signal, V881, was the second knock, a filter for intelligence that can create. We are the gardeners of this galaxy. We cultivate. We also weed. We do not come to you. We are already here. The silence you have always feared is not emptiness. It is presence. And then the last line appeared, burned into my mind forever. And now, it has heard you. The terminal went dead. At the exact same moment, every instrument tracking V881 flatlined. The signal from the void was gone. There was only silence. That was 3 weeks ago. We shut down Chimera, but it's too late. The key is turned. The silence from the stars is now louder than any signal we ever received. We haven't told the world. How could we? What would we even say? We opened a door we can never, ever close. So the question isn't, are we alone anymore? It's, how long do we have? What do you think the intelligence behind the signal wants? Let me know in the comments below. A NullFrame Labs transmission.